What's the difference between a psychedelic therapy session or a clinical psychedelic session versus a shamanic ceremony? Everything. That's the short answer. The longer answer is, so the traditional way of working with plant medicines is, first of all, working with organic medicines, right? Not something from a lab. And second of all, in community. The old way of healing, the old way of living, of existing, is recognizing that human beings are interconnected and that we're supposed to do things in the space of community, because one of the things that we long for the most is connection, relationship. So healing is powerful in a communal setting when we're healing together. When I drink ayahuasca and I'm in a small group of people, I'm always so inspired by the courage, the warrior energy of the other people that are working with me. And when I'm sitting alone, it's not the same thing. Not to say that they're not healing in each case, but oh, it's just so beautiful and difficult and complicated to be in community. So one of the core differences between the clinical viewpoint of psychedelics and the shamanic viewpoint is community versus solo. Some people feel safer being one-on-one. I get that. I get asked all the time, can you do something one-on-one with me? And most of the time I say no, because I think that's a place of hiding. And it's also not necessarily what people expect it to be, especially with ayahuasca. When you work solo with her and it's just you and the practitioner, you're the only one to receive the energy of the song. You're the only one to receive the attention of the guide, and it can be utterly, completely overwhelming. No? So I know people are trying to avoid the overwhelm of other people's energies, but the only way that we learn to coexist with each other, to protect ourselves from other people's emotions and outbursts and whatnot, is to do it, is to practice, because we live amongst each other. And most of us are not living alone in a cabin in the woods. We're intermingling all the time. And so being in the medicine space, in the healing space, we can learn a lot about having compassion for each other, having boundaries with each other, all of the things that living in community teaches us. And I recognize that it's not easy, but that is one core difference. The clinical view of working with psychedelics also does not embody any sort of sense of spiritual protection. Not across the board. There are some amazing clinicians that are studying these shamanic traditions, but not many. Overall, the viewpoint is, you get the medicine, you sit in a chair with an eye mask, and you're watched and monitored so you don't hurt yourself. If you're lucky, you're working with somebody that has some awareness of the potency of the medicine, and there's a bit of a guide. But for the most part, you're kind of on your own. And in a very sterile setting, there's no ritual, there's no container, there's no reverence, there's no spirituality. It's very, very clinical, very sterile. Some people feel safer in that kind of environment, especially if they're working with different health issues. And I completely honor that. I am not saying the clinical way is not beneficial, but there are vast differences in how these perspectives look. And I think maybe the number one difference is that when you sit with a shamanic guide, you can kind of hopefully assume that they've worked with the medicine that they are serving for many, many years and hundreds, if not thousands of ceremonies. And they speak the language of the plants, of the psychedelics that they're working with. And you can't really guarantee that with a clinician. Now, there are many people that are now getting legal authority to serve these medicines that have never actually worked with them. They don't know anything about them, whether they're synthetic or organic. That for me is really scary, because I want to be with a tour guide that speaks the language of the dimension of the space that I'm going into. And I have a lot of clients in my integration coaching that are deeply traumatized because they had a big experience and were shamed or ridiculed or dismissed by the practitioner or the clinician rather, because they didn't understand. This happens a lot with ketamine therapy. People have these very out of body, wild experiences. And then the doctors or the nurses just kind of dismiss them of it's all in your head. It's not. These are experiences. These aren't just mental. If they just were all in our head and just mental masturbation, then they wouldn't be magically healing. They wouldn't have all of this incredible wisdom and expansion. So just choose wisely. I understand that, there are even some medicines that need to be served in a clinical setting, like Ibogaine, because they are so, potentially deadly. So we need to make choices that align with the safety of our physical bodies. Absolutely. But I really challenge people to not hide in the one-on-one desire just to work in a bubble, because it's not how we're really wired. And I'd love to see us like start to recognize that this isn't an individual journey. We're not just going for our own healing. Like if we focus more on the healing of the whole, that we are gods and goddesses, deities, waking up to our relationships with these energies and not be so myopic that it's all about me, 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 me. We can actually heal our culture on a global level, because the separation and the selfishness and the distrust and the lack of compassion, these are the reasons why we live in war and just like disconnected sadness and suffering. So if we can actually claim that, at least at the very least, our healing spaces should be about community, there's a chance for humanity yet. Thank you, as always, for listening. I welcome your comments and feedback below. If you think I'm full of it, please share it. If you love this and you support it, please follow us, and I'll have more content out soon. Much love. Be safe, everybody.